Call the meeting of the Metro County Board of Supervisors to order. We have an agenda in front of us. Second. Motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 2, County Attorney General discussion.
I had sent over that memo on that tax certificate. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at it yet. Sometime you should take some action on it, either yes, we should pay it, or not, no, we're not going to, and then I could at least let them know what the position is.
I don't have a problem with it.
I think we should pay it and probably put it on for next week. Well,
Okay. What was that? Tax certificate issue, just,
You got kind of caught in the,
we got,
fish 22.
yeah, basically.
Or 2030, whichever one it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody in the world, like I said, I think the legislature realized what they'd done, that's why they went back in and changed the law that said, hey, wait a minute, you have to pay these people. But, you know, for that one short period of time, they didn't have to. I think they realized, hey, that wasn't right, that wasn't fair. Other than that, I've got a bunch of files here, just, you know, just in case you had questions on stuff for me.
I have a question, but it's really pertinent.
What do you think?
When you sign a 2080, how legally binding is that?
It's just like any other contract. So it's legally binding.
On every entity that signed it?
Every entity that signed it. The question is, who can enforce it?
That's it. And well,
For instance, if let's just say 10 counties got together, and Mitchell County thought, well, Winnebago County, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. I doubt if Mitchell County could bring an action against Winnebago County. I think the 20AD group would have to decide as an entity to bring an action against one of its members.
well, the problem is, and it's rising, is that Mitchell County and 3 other counties, the Solid Waste Commission and all the cities in our catchment area, you know, signed a 2080 to take our garbage out to the landfill, which is fine. But now we're seeing a lot of these yellow boxes all over town, and all this, that demo is going, you know, so
Okay.
some are having a, kind of upsets some people that they're doing that. I called the DNR, and they basically said that's interstate commerce and we can't do anything about it. And the other thing is, I think demo can leave the area.
Well,
But not
Yeah,
garbage.
see, here's the thing. If somebody has a contract with Osage, that person then has to take it to the landfill. In other words, it's a waste management now. Who has Osage's contract?
General.
General.
But what about the private haulers?
If I have someone come to my place and pick up garbage, they can haul that garbage unless they're, you know. Now, you could get around that by permitting people. Say you want to haul garbage in Mitchell County, you have to have a permit. Okay, now the permit requires it that you take it to the landfill. But otherwise, no, you can't affect third parties' right by what you guys did. So like everybody that's in that 2080 agreement, you know, City of Osage, all those places, they have to haul there. But anyone that comes in that's private, well, they can haul whatever they want.
And the other way you can look at that, is we're not filling up our landfill with it, you know. Because demo is not a real, you know, they can take it to Minnesota, they don't even have to have a lined cell up there, they just put it all covered with dirt, so. Anyway, that was a question that was going around because they're doing the library over there. Well,
If they wanted it, they should have put it in their contract. They should have said, when you
There's a couple
demolish
ways
it,
of looking at that.
when you demolish it, you've got to haul to this landfill
Where does the library get their money?
in the county.
You know, cities and,
Yeah. But
you know,
they
those
didn't
are
put it in
taxpayer
there.
dollars, you know.
They didn't put it in there, I don't have to do it. You know.
So anyway, that was one of the controversial things.
That,
came
you
up.
should just bring that up at the next board meeting. Anytime anybody has contracts with private, you know, construction, destruction, demolition, put it right in your contract with that group. You have to use the Floyd, or whatever it's called, Floyd Mitchell, Chickasaw County landfill.
And you get over that way, I mean, those folks, they couldn't afford to drive all the way to Minnesota. I mean, it's not, and there's no landfill, I don't believe, in Minnesota close enough to them either, but here it's kind of a either or.
Which destruction, which one?
Be it, no, who's taking it
No,
up
which
there?
is, what are you talking about that's being torn down?
No, the library, they're roofing the library, and so they're taking all the old shingles off.
The Osage Library?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
and so they're gonna put steel on
okay.
instead, and so then there was some controversy about where we needed to take these shingles. But being that we're all part of 2080, some thought that they should go out there, and others said, well, we don't have to, and
And I said, well, they have to.
that's what we don't know.
Several of the counties around us have banned open burning. Is that up to the supervisors to make that call, or is it a fire department call?
My understanding is
You know what I'm saying?
basically the fire chiefs can get together and request the state fire marshal to issue the ban, and then if there's an exemption, the fire chief can issue a permit.
I know,
That
A lot of that's controlled by DNR too. Like, I did not know this until a few years ago, but if I tear a building down, or if I cut trees down on my property and burn it, that's fine. And if I cut trees down and haul them over to my neighbor's place and burn them, that's against the law. Yeah, you can burn them right there. Because Mitchell County got fined for that 10, 15 years ago. Because they had cut brush and then they hauled it all out to the landfill, shredded most of it, but burned some of it. I think what happened is some railroad ties might have caught on fire. It's caused the problem, but that's been 15 years ago, but yeah, they got in trouble just for burning the excess.
yeah, I just wondered who made the call. I think Howard and Word and Floyd are all banned open burning temporarily.
Just temporarily, yeah.
Yeah, until we get some water.
Off the top of my head, I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Stan must
Yeah,
check
you're probably right with the players.
check with them, see how they did.
Anything else for Mark?
Okay.
Fireworks?
They didn't go over real well.
What's that?
Fireworks.
Why is that?
Well, they got set off a little late, telephones started ringing all over the city, and assisted living folks got woke up, and
a lot of people have to watch the
No, I was still up.
the comment that was made to me, that was right after that
This morning?
episode out in Aurora, and so a lot of people were wondering, well, what's going on? Somebody, you know, terrorists
kidding me.
or something like that.
Mary thought so. I thought so.
Yeah, I mean, you know, some people would think that, you know, I mean, because you don't expect fireworks in the middle of the night.
Oh, just another thing, I don't know if anybody else is getting them, but I'm getting all kinds of letters on a class action lawsuit, municipal derivative settlement class action lawsuit. And basically, all they say is if you don't do anything, you're just gonna be considered part of the class. I don't know if Mitchell County had any derivatives or not. You know, they may have through the IPER system, but I don't think directly we ever purchase any derivatives, do we? That's how towns are broke.
We don't
They
have
purchase a derivative.
speculative things, weren't they?
Yeah, and that nobody really understood. They just sold them to you, said you'd make money. No, you didn't. What's that? At least it wasn't $2 billion. Has Carlton said anything more about this 2080 agreement with,
He's out of commission for a couple of weeks, and so we haven't been able to give him.
okay, this is on this FMC Community Empowerment Early
Oh,
Child.
that.
yeah, I haven't heard anything more on that.
I've called Lori a couple times and got her answering machine every time, and I've never got a return call.
Yeah, I'll, let me get a hold of her again, but we've had a meeting since then too, and it just didn't come up, so it may be a new point, but I'll give her a call too, and
I'll give her a call too, just so she can tell me what you actually do. It sounds to me like you're just a conduit for money.
yeah, I looked at home. All our money comes from federal or state, so
Yeah. So, okay.
I didn't, none of us could figure out why we needed the 2080, but there are some new reorganization of that type of entity here in Iowa, where some of the other counties are now consolidating, where FMC, Floyd Mitchell Chickasaw, has been there since day one.
Well, I'm not gonna do anything on this.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Okay. That's all I have.
Item 3, resolution approving contract and bonds. That's for the Valent Biosciences Industrial Treatment Facility, I believe.
Yep.
Here.
We got as a packet for you guys, as a requirement of the contract, they are to supply us with bonds, insurance certificates, and all that fun stuff for the project. They're all here in originals for you guys' records. There are 3 copies of the contract here with little sign and date stickies. I need you folks, once you approve, moving forward with this, to sign and date were indicated. I need 2 copies back, whether I get them today or in a day or 2, doesn't really matter. Basically what we got here is we've got 3 agreements. We've got original copy of the bonds, performance and payment, and a clarification letter that states that their performance bond also covers the maintenance bond requirements we have for the project. There's an insurance certificate in here naming us and the county on their insurance. There's a contractor registration form, which basically the way we do, well, you guys don't have to worry about this. This is not tax exempt, is it? Out here, or is it?
This is tax exempt.
Okay.
City
That's
is
not-
taxable.
Okay,
No, wait a minute.
No,
We're
other
the other way
way,
around.
other way.
All right. That's fine. There's
Yeah.
a registration form here. If you were to be tax exempt, they just need to register and they could get all their stuff tax free, but that's not the case. There's a schedule of work, and I'm just gonna go over that real quick with you guys. And it's based on weeks, not necessarily firm dates, but once they get their contract back, it'll take them 2 weeks to prepare shop drawings. They'll have fabrication of the 2 large tanks 6 to 8 weeks after approval of submittals. Typically, I approve submittals in 1 or 2 days. It doesn't take me long to get through that stuff. 2 weeks for the dome. And it takes them, let's see here, 10 weeks for delivery and getting everything out here, I guess. And the erection time is 10 to 14 days. Again, you can kind of look at this. It's not really calendar-based, but more day-based in between when they send out submittals and stuff like that. When I talked to them on the phone, pretty much everything we've done before things got freezing cold out. One of the things that they have to do as part of the project is they have to fill up those tanks and check them for leaks. Well, there's 2 1.2 million gallon tanks out there. What they'll do is it was in the contract, they have to buy the water from the city, and the rate was in there that the city has for bulk rate on there. They'll fill up one tank, they'll pump it to the other one, then they'll pump that other big one to the 3 smaller ones, and then we have a temporary or a one-time discharge permit to discharge all that water back out again. So that'll be pretty much the gist of it. The only thing that's a little bit in flux right now, I've been going back and forth with Terracon on what we have to do for soil corrections out there. In the plans, we had over excavation of, I don't know, it was 5 or 8 feet, whatever it was, and fill it all back in with rock. They've been going back through the calculations based on some of the weights of the tank when they're full. they have a little bit of concern about settlement, so I'm trying to work that out with them guys. And I'll have to kind of keep you guys appraised of what's going on with that. We think we got it taken care of, but we'll have to keep working with them and make sure we got everything done. But other than that, like I said, I can leave the packet with you folks. You can sign it now, you can sign it later, it doesn't matter to me. A couple days isn't gonna hurt anything, but the dates are, the stickies are right where they basically have to sign. Need a signature and then a testify.
You need the signature of the chair, right?
Yep, and then whoever normally tests things.
That's, there you go.
Do you guys have any questions on what's going on out here? Okay, as we talked about,
It's like 1.3 million or something, wasn't it? They got the
it's in
low
there,
bid.
yeah.
Oh, we need a motion on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we did, we need a motion.
I'll
on
sign.
that. We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution of contract and bonds for the Valent process tank project. Roll call vote, Walk.
Aye.
Worklander.
Aye.
Morrell, aye. Motion carried.
As we talked about the last meeting, we're not gonna buy the equipment ahead of time. So with that, not a lot's gonna get done in between now and several months from now. But I'm gonna keep coming back about every 2 weeks or so to keep you guys appraised on how things are going on the DNR side of things, how things are going with our main package of plans and specs. And at some point in time, and I don't care if we do it in this particular time of the day in this kind of form, or if we want to have a special form, I want to sit down with you guys, and I would like to go over what the whole project entails, just so you guys can kind of wrap your arms around what this is. Now, I'm not going to give you a big technical lesson on wastewater, but I'll at least give you guys kind of a quick breakdown on all the stuff that goes out here, so you kind of get an understanding of it. That's for a little bit later on, but I want to make sure that you guys know what's going on. So, yeah.
Talk a little bit about that village rest.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Would we want to get that for the 9 million now? Or do we want to get it for the whatever this is, while he's erecting it?
That might be a question for the insurance guy. Yeah, see if you can incrementally increase that every time we do some kind of bid on the project. I'm not sure how that goes. Normally, when we bid a project, it's the whole thing at one time.
Right.
And you do the bid price. We kind of piecemeal this out a little bit in some special bid packages. So if it's not too complicated, maybe it saves a little bit of money to just get it for the incremental increase whenever we get a bid package.
Because I'm assuming once they get the tanks up, then they'll continue right on with the building and all that, and of course that,
Yeah,
we're gonna
'cause
go for it.
that's about right. When the tanks get done, we should about or have a new contractor on board for the rest of the project. And that's a good question too. Maybe Mark can help you out with this a little bit. The county's funding or the Osage project is going through the county, but it's on the city site. How's the insurance bill for builder's risk in that place going to work out? Would that be something the city deals with, even though it's county funded? Those are the things that you guys might want to talk a little about. I'm not sure how that might work.
Do we have our lease in place yet?
No.
That'll be the, I mean, that's the next step. That is the next step after a future agenda item here today, so we'll
Okay.
move to those discussions next.
All right.
Something to think about then, I guess. That's still a ways off, but something to think about.
Yeah, because we gotta get everything covered. I don't
We
know.
can definitely insure our interest, it doesn't matter as
What
long as
project's on?
what we own, yeah, just like if I have.
So then we should be looking at the 12.75, because that's basically, or, you
Well,
know,
as you
somewhere.
get there, yeah,
Yeah.
in increments,
And if we can do it, then
I think
Okay.
in a building construction project, you
then we
can.
gotta remember to do it. That's the thing.
It's not to get huge difference.
I think so.
I mean, when you're talking a project like this big,
Let's just keep that in mind and keep thinking about it, but, and I'll try to remember.
Well, I'll check on it, try to get it before the next meeting or something, to find out what it's gonna cost, and if we can do it in increments, and,
Okay.
you know,
I have a meeting with Luke every other week about things that Valent seem to be on their schedule that they had originally proposed, so nothing strange there, nothing's, creep the schedule back, that would make it tough for us. Be nice if it kind of got pushed forward a little bit more, but that hasn't happened yet, so. But we're still on track with it. All right, well, I will come back in about 2 weeks then, and I'll just kind of keep you guys up to speed on what's going on. In fact, 2 weeks for sure, because getting quotes back for that water main extension out to the site that I'll have to have you guys act on, but we'll talk about that at that meeting. All right,
Thanks, Tom.
you guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this is actually the whole package except for 2 of these contracts. Lowell is you guys'. So I'll take 2 of them, and this is all your stuff. Thank you much. You guys have a great day.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
Item number 4 is Mitchell County Economic Development Commission update. I'm assuming that's why Brenda's here.
Good morning,
Good
yes. For the last 9 months, representatives from Mitchell County Economic Development, this group, Osage Municipal Utilities and Worth County, with the assistance of U.S. Energy Services, has been analyzing the idea of constructing a new high-pressure gas line to enhance natural gas services not only here in Mitchell County but in Worth County. Over the last month or so, some additional line capacities have been identified south of the community of Osage, and this additional capacity should accommodate the most immediate needs of the VBC project. This excess capacity was identified in part due to our comprehensive efforts to study natural gas in the region and to conduct a thorough analysis of our current and future gas needs, again utilizing the services of U.S. Energy. As we considered this additional capacity and generally the current economics in the agriculture area across the region, we've decided to suspend our efforts to move the natural gas project forward at this time. We will continue to monitor Mitchell County's natural gas needs as well as other key infrastructure components as we work with our existing industry and any new industry looking to make their home in Mitchell County. I'd like to extend the sincere thanks to the supervisors. Without your funding assistance, we could have never enlisted the services of U.S. Energy to move the project to where we are today. We've learned a lot about natural gas, like I said, because our parts and understanding where capacity could be made available, our most immediate needs have been taken care of. So thank you for your support. And again, I really, Stan has been put forth countless hours in support of this project. And so at this point in time, this will be our official announcement that we're suspending the natural gas study. I've given a copy of the release to Jim. And we'll be routing that to our other 3 papers when I leave this room. So thank you again. Stay posted and we'll keep you appraised if something changes with that.
And it could sometime.
It very well could, yes, but at least for now, there might be some things we can tweak within our borders to enhance our service. So you'll probably see me back soon once I get some answers on Northern Natural on that, but this would be our official notice of that. Yeah,
Brenda,
that's it.
Okay.
could you email me a copy?
I would, thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Move to item number 5, resolution to approve and authorize signing a development agreement among the City of Osage, Mitchell County, and Valent Biosciences Corporation.
Yoo-hoo,
We're here.
We're here today and we've got this far. The agreement has been signed by the city and the company. A couple issues that were the last pieces that are not a big deal, but John Danos, the county's attorney for this piece, did a nice job of explaining how our tax situation works in Iowa. There was a misunderstanding or just a lack of knowledge on their part. The good news for the county is that the company agreed to start paying taxes effective with a January 1, 2013 assessment, even though the project will not be fully complete at that time. So taxes will flow a year earlier, which will help satisfy bond payments. So with that, I think there is nothing substantially that changed from the agreement that we've been seeing over the last 6 months. And you have a resolution to approve it in this form.
So basically, our bond counsel has agreed that this is a good thing.
Yes, very good thing. He's very pleased with the fact that they're the pilot payment agreement was.
And we were on the phone, this morning with their office.
Good, I make a motion that we approve this resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. To approve, yes, to approve and authorize signing a development agreement among the city of Osage, Mitchell County, and Valent Biosciences Corporation. Roll call vote, Volklander.
Aye.
Lot.
Aye.
Morel, aye. Motion carried.
Thank you. Now, we'll move into as Mark was suggesting, into the lease and the pretreatment agreement. We just felt that we really needed to move incrementally, get this done. We amended the memorandum of understanding a couple times, so we now have a clear understanding of how this piece works, and everybody has signed off, and we'll just move into the next piece.
How long do you think that'll take?
A few months probably. Just by the time you have attorneys talking about stuff. And obviously, the city is a great deal more involved in this aspect of the project. This is the operational component we gotta live with every day, so there'll be a lot of discussion
And my sense, Joel, this really was, they had it in their possession, had a chance to, but it really has been on the back
burner
burner.
as we've tried to.
Summer is hard with vacations, their attorneys were gone, John was gone.
And they're focused on really building a plant, so I don't wanna set the stage that this will be here soon. I think we should allow a good couple months of.
Are they gonna deviate a lot from the originals?
You know what,
They haven't even looked at it, I don't think.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't have any sense.
They haven't
So,
even,
makes me nervous just to think.
yeah. I don't even
One
know.
and not the others, because then we start getting into.
Well, we can't very well approve the lease. I mean, the lease is really tied up
It'd be
with
nice
this
to be able to
pretreatment
approve
agreement.
All three at the one time.
I know, but nice and the reality are, in this case,
Yeah.
different.
I assume now that they'll be call them first, and then I'm gonna route the release on the gas. So I'll let them know it's signed and find the pretreatment agreement, and it's time to start working on that, so. And our bond council hasn't even started looking at that either. There hasn't just been any dialogue on it, so.
Right.
Item 6 is a contract for private development.
We've got copies here.
Well, that's what you just approved. Is
The
that,
resolution.
right, so
It's one and the same? There's
it
two
really
different-
is one and the same.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
There's two different things on the agenda, though, that's all.
Yes, but it's really one and the same. By passing that resolution, you did approve, you authorized Bob to sign
Well,
that
yeah, I just wondered if it,
Okay.
contract.
it's, it's listed separately up here, so I didn't know if it was something different
That's
or.
part of it.
Right, it's one and the same.
We have to have this notarized.
Well, I guess, county engineers patiently waiting here. It is 9 o'clock, we'll put you in the hot seat, Rich. Thanks, Kathy.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Rich.
Morning. We are cruising along on the rock run. We're gonna be probably in staff board address this week. And see what happens early next week, see where we're at. Merlin's on board, he's on his second day now. Doing pretty well. The mowers are all out. I'm gonna see if I can take a brief pause on our hard surface and put our hard surface mower on some gravel. We're getting really behind on those with the one tractor down. I had a meeting with Diamond Mowers. They happen to be coming through, and ironically it was in a time when needed. Had a discussion on what we may or may not do with mowers. I had a talk with the Worth County Board yesterday about potential scenarios on a mower. I don't remember if I discussed it with you guys
Disc
or
mower,
not.
yeah. You mentioned a disc mower.
Yep, we're gonna,
PTO-driven disc mower.
we're gonna look at right now, I know Gordy's implement has one that they would rent us. I wanna make sure it's one that we won't burn up. It's a used one, so whether or not we get a good true test or not, it's something that we'll have to look at. But just to see what it'll do as far as speed goes is what I really wanna look at doing. You know, we bought those, both Worth and Mitchell bought 2 tractors to run the road groomers. When we tested that road groomer, we didn't have any idea what horsepower range we needed to be, and we thought 125 horsepower was good. It is good, except when you start getting really wet material. So what I'm thinking of doing, since we need a mower, maybe we can convert that John Deere over to a mower, create another blacktop mower, so we have 2 blacktop mowers, get a little bit larger tractor for the groomer, and still use that tractor as a loader and a potential backup mower with a disc mower. So what would happen is in the spring, we could run our Ford New Holland hard service mower, a new hard service mower, both set up identical, have a rear deck, side deck, run our blacktops right away in the spring, and then those mowers can also be shut, the rear decks can be shut down, and then you can run just the side mower on those in the gravels. So we could run 2 on the hard service right away in the spring, keep 1 on the hard service the rest of the summer, and then throw 1 out on the gravels. I think it's a good, to me, it's a good utilization of getting something more versatile, because I know we've tried to run our gravel mowers on the blacktops, and they're not always the cleanest cut, because they don't have that rear deck to try to knock down the rest of the weeds. So, like, I'm not saying that we're gonna do that, but right now, it seems like a pretty good option. Now, I don't know what we're gonna spend, and they're gonna be spendy mowers, but those hydraulic diamond mowers are pretty durable. So, they're supposed to get back to me with some pricing on some mowers, and we'll see where we're at with that, find out what we need to use.
Well, if we're running behind on the gravel roads, could we pay some overtime? Because, I mean,
They're on 410s, so they could still work a half a day Friday and still have a pretty long weekend.
Well, we can ask that question. I know there's probably guys that wouldn't mind running it.
I mean, because basically the extra in overtime is small compared, I mean, you're gonna be paying for the
Right.
mower anyway,
Right.
and
No,
Well, that's setting still, it doesn't make,
How much do we mow on granular?
everything.
We do.
Well, we got it. You get some weeds growing pretty
Yeah,
tall.
yes.
We try to,
I've only noticed them on the hard service cars. Maybe I don't drive the granular.
well, we try to get 2 rounds on our gravels every year, and
Huh.
as many as we can on a hard surface.
yeah, I see them out there a lot when I was hauling mail.
So maybe we
It's a
can
good thing at the intersections especially.
get more out of one of those graders too. Well, they can
You know, it's funny you mention that, because they do sell equipment like that. The thing I have a problem with is a guy trying to blade and mow at the same
Well,
time.
that's true.
There's already enough levers in those machines, but
Yeah,
um,
be replacing signs quite often.
Well, they do make them. I mean, and I don't know if people are out, if they're blading them. I mean, it's just, I think that a motor grader running mowing's gonna burn up more diesel than a smaller tractor will. And I don't know if that's effective.
No, it's like that. I just jesting on that.
The guys are down, we got our guardrail section in for that perm road, or down on Stillwater, so they're putting that new end section in today, maybe finish it up tomorrow. When they get done with that, they're gonna head over to Timber and start removing that deck on that bridge on Timber, so we can get going on the construction of that bridge over there. So,
It's a goal, huh?
yep, we're gonna go get that, we're gonna get pipe ordered and
Good.
put some rough plans together for the guys to look at least we'll have something in the file. And then we're working on getting quotes for the natural gas dug into the new shop, or to our shops now. The main shop may take a little bit more plumbing. I didn't realize that the natural gas needs kind of a larger diameter pipe than what LP takes. LP's under higher pressure. So we may have to do some plumbing inside the shops, but I think maybe in the long run, with the prices the way they are, we'll probably save money in the long run, but we'll get quotes on
Should be
that.
minor.
I think a lot of our piping in the shop is 3/4, and they need at least a minimum of 1-inch diameter, because you don't, it'll run on 3/4, but you might soot up the very end of those overhead heaters because the gas doesn't get there like it needs to burn efficiently. From what I've been
Did
told.
they come and get one of the tank shops?
They are there.
Today.
When I left, they were backed up to the tank.
They gonna take them all?
I don't have to take them all today, but
Okay. Well, it worked out good.
Yeah,
you know, as far as.
timing is working out okay again.
And what about the big LP tank then?
I'm not decided on that big thing yet. I really don't know. It's probably gonna have to be cleaned out if we're gonna run diesel in it. I don't know what kind of service that takes. I mean, I've gotta imagine there's gotta be some rust and stuff in that thing.
Do we need that tank?
We're going back and forth, and I haven't had a chance to sit down and look at, or talk to even the school about quantities of gallons of fuel. The more I think about what we're doing here, and it's great that you have two tax entities share a fuel tank. We could see a cost savings in buying a tanker versus smaller tank loads of fuel. But at what cost, I guess? If we don't need 10,000 gallons, the fuel's not gonna last, you know, forever in that tank. It's gonna degrade in the tank.
And it attracts water, it's hygroscopic.
Are we gonna be spending more money on a distribution system for two entities? Are we spending more on a distribution system than we would see in the savings of buying in bulk? You know, those numbers, I really wanna put hard dollar numbers to it to see whether it's cost effective or not. And, I haven't done that yet. Do you know when they were coming in? When did they say they were gonna move that other tank?
He didn't give a firm date, but he just said shortly.
Shortly, so.
What tank is that?
What's that?
What tank is that?
What tank?
Yeah, what tank they moving?
They're moving something for somebody else, but they figured as long as they have the heavy equipment in here to haul, that it's.
Oh,
Just
Still
the
doesn't
headlights on
help.
out there.
We're trying to utilize
It helps you, not me. It's still
the services of them to move a big tank. But, you know, that one, if we take that one, we'll have to berm around it in case it leaks. It's a single wall tank. I know it's a really thick tank, but the EPA isn't gonna let you buy without berming around it. If we buy a dual wall tank, we don't have to worry about having a berm. They'll have to put bollards up so nobody hits it, but
Is that about 8,000 or 10,000 gallons?
I think that one's probably 8,000 to 10,000. I don't know exactly what it is, but,
An old rail car, I think.
yeah, I looked at it. It's been torched off in the bottom from supports or something, so.
Anybody else interested in that tank or
Johnson Oil.
Johnson Oil?
So I don't know if there's a way to, if we don't need a 10,000 gallon tank, whether 5,000 works, they could credit us or whatever, I don't know.
Look at the numbers, yes.
I know when Johnson Oil was in, they were questioning the validity of it. But, you know, when they look at the price difference per gallon and the cost of a distribution system to keep the two entities separate so we know who's paying for what. You know, those systems could run, from what I'm told, no, I didn't do any research on it, but they can run $10,000 to $15,000. Well, that's a lot of 10-cent difference fuel that we wouldn't have to spend. I mean,
For a card key troll or something?
well, if you do a key troll or whatever, I mean,
Card or whatever.
there are probably used systems out there. I know Worth County's got a system now that they turn a key to turn on the pump and it meters that key. So then the entities that are pulling out of the tanks there know what they're pumping out and then the county gets reimbursed that way. But, I mean, part of me says it makes sense if the school system doesn't have, you know, if they want to have bulk fuel and they don't have a place to put it, well, we'll have the yard big enough to do it. So then part of me says, why have two separate tanks? Although two separate tanks is two different pieces of, you know, they'll have their own meter, we'll have our own meter. That's fine. But then if you're gonna have two tanks, why not have one and meter out of both, or out of one? But it's a dollars and cents game. At one time I was thinking, you know, whoever pay, you know, if we have a 10,000 gallon tank and they're pulling 15% out of it a year, well then they would probably look at it and say, well, we should only pay 15% of the cost. But as Secondary Roads looks at it, we don't need a distribution system. We don't need, why should we pay for it at all? Why should we incur the costs to save the school? Well, we could all save money on bulk, that's no different, but
But it takes a lot of-
why pay the bulk of the cost of a distribution system if we don't really need it?
Takes a lot of dimes to justify a $10,000
Is
investment.
that what that is, a dime difference?
I
July
haven't
tanker?
looked, I mean, it can be. So, I mean, I think it's something that we need to put a dollar number to and make the economics, see what the economics say is, whether it's valuable to us or not. We had a couple of calls on potential crop damage on spraying. So, one is Randy Eran, the other one is Jerry Patterson. And
What are they using for crop?
I think that's what he's using. That's
Okay,
what we've
well,
been ordering.
I have some information on that. I'll stop by. Well, I'll give that to you.
All right. Anything else?
Well, Mr. Falk is here, the county attorney is here, and weight limits are here.
I was gonna talk to Mark after the meeting about what we have as far as legal, whether we can or cannot do it. So maybe we can talk afterwards too. Part of the code says an entity has, at their discretion, certain things they can do, and then part of the code says these are what it is. I'm confused. Maybe you can help translate attorney and lawyer jargon for us. All we've got is the Iowa code has two different weight restrictions. There's one for non-primary roads, cities and counties, one is for primary roads, state and federal highway. The same truck setup has two different weights allowed, whether you're on primary or secondary. So we don't know whether we, in the code of Iowa, are allowed to permit something heavier than what the tables show in the code or not. That's the question.
No, off the top of my head, I certainly don't know.
So,
That's why I was kind of hanging around, because I knew you wanted to talk about it.
well, and that's the issue, and I've had several conversations with other county engineers, and some say you absolutely cannot deviate from what the Iowa code says, and some say there's a gray area. Well, I want to know what I've got. Am I in a gray area, or am I absolutely not able to do it? I mean, I want to be easy to work with, I want to be able to do things like that, but I also don't want to have the liability of, if we say we can do it at our discretion, and we have a bridge fail because of our discretion, that's a lot of liability. It may take additional costs to evaluate certain routes. If we're allowed to do certain routes, do we evaluate our bridges different so that we know for sure those bridges and those structures can take those type of concentrated loads. So it's not, to me, it's not a simple cut and dry thing, and if a guy wanted to, you could say, okay, this is what it says, this is what you're doing, because that's what some counties are doing.
That wouldn't make any difference to the bridge though. The bridges are all of our bridges posted somewhere?
Some of them are, but the ones that aren't posted
Are
are
considered
legal,
what?
are considered legal limit, but define legal limit, because certain axle configurations concentrate the load more than others. And so, in this day and age, and I know what I've been reading is that in November, there's a group that wants to bring this up for reevaluation. And 2 years from now, they hope to have a judgment on whether or not they're gonna change these tables. Because in some instances, when I was talking to the structural engineers, they can evaluate a tandem axle truck and at, I don't know, 40,000 pounds, and it puts a certain load on a structure, and then you put that same truck and add 5 axles to it and load it up, it might be better for the bridge than a regular. I mean, it's the combination of where the loads are transferred, so we don't get our stuff evaluated that way. We don't have reason to, whereas the state, they can pull up, if somebody wants a special permit to run a route, the state can click on their computer, find out what bridge it is, they can run an analysis of the axle configurations and know in 15 minutes whether that route will take that load. We don't have that capability. So, and that's part of the reason, I think, is structures. Whether the structures can take the concentrated loads or not.
When they evaluate a bridge, don't they have a certain fudge factor into that?
You call it a fudge factor, we call it
Over-engineered?
no, a factor of safety,
Factor of safety.
yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, yeah, this bridge is constructed this way and that way, and looks pretty good, but how do they know? I mean,
They don't.
right.
They're always trying to be very cautious on when they evaluate, especially when we're looking at these timber pile bridges and you don't know exactly how much of that pile's deteriorated. We as engineers we're gonna figure it. If it's less than 50%, they don't even include it in their calculations because they don't know without slicing through that pile and knowing.
Yeah, most of the deterioration is probably within,
It's at the water line.
you're right. What's below the water line is probably just as good as it
And
is.
if you always figure, if you take that one out and you know it's kind of carrying, I mean, we've gotten some reports that say, according to our calculations, this bridge shouldn't even be standing on its own weight. Well, obviously it is, so obviously that pile's taken some load, but we don't know how much.
And we only look at them every 3 years, 2 years.
So the ones that went from no posting to closed, obviously something's going on there.
But you're just worried about the primary roads, right?
No, they're legal on primary roads.
Primary, it's just,
It's getting to those primary roads that they're having trouble with. And even through discussions, it sounds to me like the DOT hasn't really been active until the new fella came around. Because it isn't just affecting Valent, it's affecting mayors and pop and everybody. The one part of the code says, and here's where I have a little bit of an issue with, is that, and I can't quote the code verbatim because I don't remember exactly the wording, but it gives the impression that if the county owned that truck or rented that truck, or that truck was on a project that was under contract, that truck could be loaded to its maximum and be exempt. But because it's not working for us, underneath us, or owned by us, we're exempt. Which, I have questions on why certain things are exempt and certain ones aren't. And I guess I don't make the laws, but.
And part of the issue too is that there's a gap in the tables because these trucks didn't exist really when they were making them. So that's what the DOT guy said, is that sometimes it's a judgment call how to fill in that gap. The first time you just went to the next number, and the next time there wasn't one, so we went back to the axles. So everything's changing too. I mean, that,
They want to reevaluate those tables, it just doesn't come in as fast as the trucks are coming out. And they invest a lot of money into getting these trucks set up, so they're trying to distribute the loads better. It's an economic thing. I mean, when they're hauling and they want to haul 80,000 pounds on a 7-axle dump truck, obviously you can haul more than a regular tandem, but when you're hauling to a farm site or construction site, it's easier to maneuver a dump truck than it is a semi with a side dump. I mean, they're buying them for economic reasons. They want to be more efficient. I mean, there's a reason they're doing it. They're not doing it to be malicious in any way to damage things, but we've got to, I guess, in my chair, I've got a responsibility to make sure that we're not overly stressing our structures and pavements. While you wished it was cut and dry, it isn't.
Well, at some point in time, are you gonna try to sit down
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Mark
that was-
and the DOT and maybe with these truckers and try to get everybody on the same page of what's happening and
They've had their long conversation with DOT, and I think it's understood that way.
if we're all good with the DOT.
And I think basically the DOT says if the counties are fine with it, they're fine with it. But I gotta find out what our obligations are and what we can and cannot do. There's oversized permits, there's oversized overweight, but we don't have a strict overweight. And they're not overweight for the axle configurations unless you look at the tables, and then the tables are different. It can be legal on the federal highway system, but not on the secondary roads. And I know back years ago when our roads were designed, the federal system was beefier. They were taking more truck traffic. You know, the county road systems, we don't have the funding that everybody else does, and sometimes the roads were designed to just get by. You know, Howard County's got seal coat roads. I don't think the seal coat roads will hold up to loads like that. We've got 4-inch overlays on top of an existing 6-inch asphalt road. The structure's there. So,
September.
it's still there. So,
Okay.
and I've been we've been in contact with Lindsay and trying to get things to push through. I mean, their trucks are sitting there. They've been able to somewhat manipulate a little bit so they can haul more, but it's a short-term fix. Because at their configuration, the secondary rows table doesn't have, in that configuration, a weight maximum for a 7-axle truck. It doesn't exist on our table, it exists on the state highway table. And it's usually what, is it 2,500 pounds difference? Or is it?
On the, yeah.
Usually the difference is around 2 tons between the two
It varies on
tables.
the axles and on the bridge, but on the smaller trucks, it's a couple thousand pounds, and then if you have to go back, then you're talking 18,000 pounds. But usually the difference, if they're both numbered, is about 2,500 pounds.
Right, yep.
So it doesn't exist on the table, looks like you're free to go, doesn't it?
Tell the DOT guy that, no.
Well, yeah, they don't have a table for it.
If they don't have a table for it, it's not against the law.
No, you should show us where it's against the law.
I always start out with the premise, everything's legal, until you show me that it's not. And that's why we have codes, because the code tells you what's not legal. And if they don't have a table for it, and they don't have a chart for it,
The table is a progressive table in that
yeah,
certain axle configurations start at a minimum.
yeah.
So they want to be here, there's no number.
Well, Brad, had that conversation with you on Friday.
I think you're probably right, saying that it is the structures they're more worried
I
about.
think
because, I mean,
it's what I'm more worried about. Now, the question then becomes is can we designate a route for these things? That's the part of the code I need interpreted, because anybody who read the Iowa code, you can interpret anything you want out of it.
Well, those weight restrictions, nobody understands them unless they've got a chart and a table and a drawing. That's the only way you can understand that.
Well, yeah, and I'm getting well
Even
educated
then-
on that.
And even then, it's difficult to do it.
Yeah.
Because they can't explain them without a drawing.
So,
You can come over?
yep,
Anything else for Rich?
where I was headed after here.
Thanks, Mark.
I know they're patiently waiting
Thanks,
for us.
Lindsay.
Thanks, guys.
They're patiently waiting for us to make the decision, and I want the right decision.
Well, sounds like you're on the right track.
You narrowed down your hiring?
Oh,
Yeah, we're getting, we actually went through the final acceptance date for any applications is Friday. Merlin and I went through some yesterday, late afternoon, kind of pitched ones out that we knew wouldn't be applicable anyway, mostly because what I went through and said is, if there's no CDL listed, I'm not gonna go call you and find out. If you can't put it on the application when you've got the job description, I'm not gonna waste my time tracking it down, so we pitched all those out. We still got a mitt full to go through, but
how'd that meeting with the state go with sharing equipment?
one-sided.
Well, they wanted our equipment.
It wasn't really a sharing of equipment as much as, hey, it focused a lot on snow removal, and they are able to cover their snow routes at least 6 times a day. We try to get our blacktops twice a day with the routes we have. They obviously have less miles than we do. And then on top of that, we've got our gravels we try to get covered once a day. Well, they were talking about if it would work and if it would happen, that we could take, as an example, they used St. Ansgar to the state line is a section of road that's kind of closed, It starts at a city, ends at a city, where the state DOT in Minnesota takes over from Lyle. If it's in a city, it's not so much that you're stopping in the middle of a route because you've got the city limits there. So as an example, we talked about, well, if you guys did an agreement with us, here's how much we pay per mile, lane mile of treatment, of snow removal, this, that, and the other thing. And so they were talking about it, and I said, okay, if we take 8 miles of your road, do you take 8 miles of ours? if we're trying to balance this out and try to be more efficient, so are you guys gonna, well, that really didn't come into play into their terms of sharing. So then we started listing off a bunch of other things. How about you guys paint our roads in the summer? You guys got a paint machine, or how about you guys help grind our bumps? You guys got machines that, I mean, it was, if we're gonna do this for you, then yeah, you guys are gonna pay us. But that doesn't make our job any easier, because we already get phone calls that we're not fast enough. And then we're gonna start, you know, what kind of calls do we get when we start on a state highway right away in the morning and everybody else is waiting to get out? So it didn't seem like it was a fair conversation, and maybe it doesn't work out at all, but I wanted to kind of find out what they were trying to bring to the table. And that doesn't mean we still can't cost share, you know, share equipment and whatnot, but it seemed kind of one-sided. And I know a lot of the county engineers that I talked to in the district haven't had that meeting yet. I think I was probably one of the first ones. I was a little nervous about it.
Well, do you think that would come to a point where the state would want the counties to clear their roads, is what they're getting at?
That's fine. At least, I don't know how,
But there was enough dollars.
state and
there.
county are short-staffed, there's no doubt about it. But I think if we were gonna help the state out with their 218 and run as often as we needed to run to meet their IMs, their instructional memorandums, their snow ordinances, we'd have to have a different truck and another guy. Well, that ain't cost-effective for the county at all. I basically told them, I said, depending on the storm, we have all we can do to keep our own stuff open. And they're not demanding that we do anything, but it's just one of those things where, let's see if it works. And I don't know that it will, but you gotta have that conversation to find out who's requesting what and whether or not there is a sharing of other things. Maybe it's not, maybe it doesn't work with snow, but maybe it works with shouldering, or maybe it works with painting, or, you know, we've got equipment they don't have, they've got equipment we could use. You know, there's certain sharing that way. It's not specifically going out and plowing snow.
Are they under a different standard for clean
Yeah.
roads? They have to have them.
They've got, it's not as, it's a little bit more strict than ours as far as our snow ordinance goes. They've got to have, within 48 hours, they've got to have the road clean. You know, we do our best, and we mostly do that too, but it depends on the storm, it depends on the situation. But they've got certain time requirements and certain times when they treat and when they don't treat, and they're not a lot different than ours. They're just, they've got a state standard that every state shed uses for that, whereas each county's got their own requirements. You know, we've got a snow ordinance that says we go out from 7 to 4. Well, we go out a lot earlier than that. So, I mean, if any, you know, it frustrates me sometimes we get those phone calls, well, why aren't you out? Well, we're already going above and beyond what we're required to do by our snow ordinance, so be patient. We're all out about the same time. They just, if they get a storm, they hire part-timers to go out and do a 24/7 route if they have to, depending on the storm. They got guys that can run 12 hours and they'll come and swap. Well, our part-time guys, one of the ones we hire, are just to keep stuff going during the day. So they're set up a little different than we are.
I knew you was having that meeting.
Yep.
I was kind of curious about other things. Kind of figured it'd be lopsided.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. Thanks, Rich.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Item number 8 on the agenda is approval of the minutes from July 17th.
Are you wanting to do both sets?
We do have one from July 20th also. I think.
On July 20th, I think we could eliminate that whole description. All we have to do is, because before we've never put down all of those. I know looking over the properties in that at St. Ansgar for the enterprise zone, we'd have had 3 full pages of newspaper print if we would have had all of those legals in there.
Yeah, we do have 2 sets. One for Tuesday the 17th.
I think if we just note that it had An increase of 0.79 acres, that, and if somebody really is interested in the legal, they can,
I'd make a motion to approve both sets with the changes.
second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of July 17th and the minutes of July 20th, 2012. Roll call vote, Wolfland.
Aye.
Walk.
Aye.
Morel, aye. Motion carried. Now, number 9 is to approve the claims. Anybody have any concerns?
Well, the only concern I really have is one we can't do anything about, and that's again, paying for all of these autopsies that the state wants that were mandated.
Yeah.
That, it's one of the things we ought to try to work on, and I'm sure the state won't want to change, the legislature won't want to change the code, but there's no reason for us to pay for those autopsies when we don't want the information. So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Roll call vote, Walk.
Aye.
Wolflander.
Aye.
Morel, aye. Motion carried.
Is the doc, the medical examiner who requests the autopsy?
And quite often,
Do they have a criteria that they use, or is it just how they feel that day?
well, they sometimes, like you say, I think overlook the criteria.
To me, it would almost have to come from the county attorney, if there was some kind of a question as to why this person.
What the code says is if you're not under a doctor's care, an autopsy has to be provided.
Well, the
Well,
way things are going in this country, there's gonna be a lot of people not under a doctor's care, so we're gonna be paying for a lot of
that's right.
autopsies.
Well, that's what I say, that, see here.
Exactly. What do you ask? What do you answer to with this autopsy? Just the doctor's curiosity?
Well, it wasn't a questionable death. You know, somebody wasn't poisoned and...
Why question all that? You know,
Well,
I mean,
I mean,
it's too
here's
bad,
a-
I mean, but.
Yeah, I mean,
we're all
I
gonna
do
pass.
too. I always like to know what the cost was, but...
But here's an example.
Request it, let them pay it.
Exactly.
But here's an example of a year ago, and I won't mention which doc told me this, but up at St. Ansgar, you know, the tractor fell into one guy, killed him. Well, they didn't send that in for an autopsy. I mean, you know, but he said legally we should have. Because again, he wasn't under a doctor's care, and but he said we all understood what happened to him. But, so, no, really, the code has to get changed, is really what.
That's something we need to talk to our legislators about, because unless there's some
Suspicion or.
suspicion, yeah, exactly, suspicion or, you know,
No, you're crossing the street and somebody plows into you. You know, you're walking across the street and that, I mean, it's pretty obvious what happened to you, it should be.
if you're golfing, get hit by lightning, you see that every once in a while in the paper, and, you know, a lot of folks do.
Yeah,
But so now all those have to have an autopsy.
oh yeah. Legally,
It isn't gonna bring them back.
yeah, but
What if we decide, no, we aren't gonna pay for them?
we ought to consider it.
I put a lien against this somehow. Who's ever doing the autopsy? Betty maybe knows the answer to this.
No, I don't, but I was wondering if part of that might be because of insurance claims, you know, that they had it in the code. I don't know, I agree with what Stan said, you know, it just says in the code, you know,
Yeah.
they're under doctor's care, but, you know, maybe some of it might be that a person committed suicide or something, but, you know, took some drugs and that, and it might affect the amount of insurance that's paid. I don't know.
That's a
But
good
then the
point.
state, then it ought to be the state's bill,
Sure.
not the county's,
Yeah,
because I mean,
yeah,
again,
I'm not
it's not
disagreeing
our.
with that, Stan.
Or the insurance company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, let the insurance company pay for it. They're worried about it.
Well, anyway.
Well, maybe we should, that's a good question for the county attorney. Can we set our criteria as to what we'll pay for?
We can't supersede the code.
well, but it just says pay for, but like you say, we'll only pay for this much. We're gonna pay,
fool them.
Yeah. So if they won't do it, why?
Well, they listened to us when we decided we weren't hauling people all we, paying $900 for an ambulance ride
Yeah.
to Mason City.
But didn't need the lights.
It didn't need the lights and two people to go along.
Not for a dead man.
Well, at least we got those fees down.
Well, I mean, it's just, I can just see this is going to escalate as more people need, and then maybe part of it should be paid by the family or their insurance or whatever they've got. If it's that big of a deal.
No, you have 15 of these, I mean, it can be a $30,000 bill. And then your legislature again complains that property taxes went up. Well, duh.
Yeah, really. We're gonna cover all this stuff.
Somebody's got to pay the bills.
Well, anyway, that felt better.
Got the big burp. But
Yeah.
that feels better. Item 10, I've got it in my hand here. Item 10 is approve the recorder's quarterly report fees. $24,628.16.
Make a motion to approve the quarterly report fees for the recorder.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the recorder's quarterly report of fees. Roll call vote, Volklander.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Morale, aye. Motion carried. Now, item 11, Upper Cedar Watershed Management Authority 2080 agreement, but I think you were going to talk to Carl or you talk to somebody
I
else.
talked to Vicki Rowland from Fayette County, and then Rick Holthouse from Chickasaw. And we're all three on the Heartland board, and when Carl gets back, and I think Rick was going to ask Ray Best that, board down there could maybe have Carl look at it again, do something with it, because he did give the Turkey Valley watershed pretty much the same opinion on that, on their 2080, and it did cause quite a bit of ruckus over there also, so. I know he identified the thing, I don't know how, what they want, I mean, if he changes that 2080, you're almost gonna have to take it to all the entities and have them approve it again, but if they approved it one time with the way it was, why wouldn't you approve it this time if it was, cleaned up and I think they were talking about going away from that joint venture to making it a municipality also, so, and I think Turkey Valley's talking, you see Chickasaw's involved, so, and I'll talk more about this, but Carl's out for a while, and so we can't go home, so we did talk about it, so we'll keep it on there.
Yeah, because my concern is if Carl doesn't do it and they write one up and then it goes to Carl and he looks it over and he says, no, this is wrong, and it goes back, I mean, I'd rather have Carl get it all in place to begin with, and then, like you say, it'll probably get approved and
So anyway, that's where that was.
well, thanks, Joel.
Yeah, thanks for looking into that. Item number 12, I'm assuming that's why Mark is here. Initial subdivision approval.
Let's see, Mr. Tim Schultz stopped by and requested a subdivision just north of St. Ansgar along 218. We had the Board of Adjustment and the Planning and Zoning Board meetings for that. They both approved it, and so now we're here with you guys for the final approval, and we'll be finished with it.
I have been given a ride all around it. It's a very irregular piece of farm ground. There's different spots that the rock, you almost farm more rock than you do good soil. It really makes more sense to have this as a subdivision as opposed to crop ground. I mean, it's not one of our best pieces of land, put it that way, for farming.
That's on the east side of the 218?
right north of Turtle
Yes.
Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the east side.
Going north of Turtle Creek, okay, would that be for John property now?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, right south of that cell tower
Yep.
and north of.
Yeah, I drove by there the other day and
He's talked to the DOT, he can get access to 218 and so all of that is worked
all
out.
taken care of and everything.
Yeah.
Just need to approve it.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Schultz subdivision, north of St. Ansgar. Roll call vote, Walk.
Aye.
Flanders.
Aye.
Morale, aye. Motion carried. Item 13 is to authorize the chair to sign the CAT grant amendment number 3. I believe that's for an extension of 1 year. For the CAT grant for the Wapsie Great Western Trail construction.
My understanding is that this would probably be the final extension that they would ever get, so they're gonna have to, and there will be no more monies coming to them until they get this thing.
Completed. Will there be money coming the other way, that they do not get it completed?
I don't think they would,
No,
no.
I'll make a motion to approve the chair signing the CAT grant amendment number 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the chair to sign the CAT grant amendment number 3 for a 1-year extension on the construction project. Roll call vote, Wolflander.
Aye.
Walk.
Aye.
Morale, aye. Motion carries. Item number 14 is a prevention, preservation commission request.
That's really more just informing you, and before the commission is meeting on Sunday at the Memories Museum in Stacyville at 1, so you're invited to come. We're trying to go through the suggestions that our consultant made, and I think I forwarded you all a page from the book. And her recommendation, and if you've read through it, was to start with an intensive survey and evaluation as our next project. And it would involve, identifying, like it says in here, some properties in each of the main towns, 2 properties, I think, maybe 10 farmsteads or barns, and some archaeological sites. And she gave the example of like the limestone, there's a limestone road, I'm assuming there's a limestone there, Brownville, I don't know, we'd have to figure out. So before we even talk about trying to pursue this, we'd have to talk about writing a grant. So before we do that, I thought I'd just bring it to you guys if you'd be interested in this. She suggested, this is the kind of thing where you find out when do the schools do their unit on Iowa. Where if you sort of plan this, where kids that were doing their unit on Iowa, you could maybe involve them in doing some of the archaeological research and learning that. Or maybe some of the historical research, I'm not sure. Before I pursued any more discussions, I'm going to be emailing Leah about so exactly what did you mean. I thought I'd bring it to you guys so you can have a little input on what you think about this idea before we kind of proceed. She made several suggestions, and so this was like the one she thought you should prioritize if you're going after some grant money. She said you should do this instead of like, say, the Hamlin Garden Homestead. She said what you could do is include that in one of your 10 rural sites, sort of get the preliminary workup done for a National Register nomination, kind of do it through the grant. So this was kind of the meat of what we're going to talk about, how to proceed with this. I think there's CLG grant at the end of August, and she kind of talks about the granting. That's what we did for the planning grant, where 40% of the match could all be done with in-kind, so there was really not much county expenditure. She recommended, she said it might be best with an HRDP grant, which I'd have to find out when their cycle is. That's one that requires some cash match. I think you can do of your part 20, you have to have some cash. You could do part of your match with in-kind like hours, but there has to be some money involved. She said that provides more time and money for such projects. But before we proceed looking into it, I want to bring it to the board just to let you know we're talking about it. What do you think about it? I think it's a good idea to go in this direction.
How big is this grant? How many dollars?
Well, I have to kind of, I thought before I even proceeded with, finding out, the one in August, I could find out, okay, what's kind of the maximum we could, there was one that would, the grant cycles at the end of August. I think HRDP is, I'd have to look at all the different grants. So we're just doing the preliminary, what do you think of the idea? If you think, well, okay, go ahead and bring us back some more information, then we will.
So basically what you're gonna do is just go out and categorize and prioritize sites? or-
Well, what it would be, what she suggests is, like, say, maybe St. Ansgar want to identify a couple of buildings, and St. Ansgar maybe is a historic downtown or something. We'd work with the people in St. Ansgar. What would be some kind of things to identify and do some preliminary work, because that would lead to, if people are interested in National Register nomination. We do it for Stacyville, we do it for Riceville. The reason she left Osage out is you already have a historic district. Oh, and she said, Osage should become its own certified local government. We talked about that, and we were thinking more of trying to maybe recruit 3 people from Osage to be part of the countywide commission that would sort of work on Osage. Because, there's lots of sites just in Osage all by itself. There's, I know a row of houses that were designed by Frank Lloyd Wright students. That would probably be something eligible for the National Historic Register. There's working on the Cedar Valley Seminary. There's enough work in Osage, if you keep, but I'm not sure it makes sense to have a separate CLG for Osage at this point. We were thinking more maybe trying to recruit some people from Osage to join the county commission that would focus on Osage. If we could find the same, interest in each of the communities, maybe if that group sort of got strong enough and wanted to be independent enough, they could become their own separate group. But at this point, we didn't think it made sense to, it's such a small, population to try to have separate certified local government entities. That was our thought.
So the ultimate goal of this project is to seek out properties to put on a historic
Yeah, that
register?
would identify some potential properties for the National Historic Register nomination. It may not lead to that, but it would, get more of the research done, like she said, for the Hamlin Garland Homestead. You could sort of get the preliminary workup done on that. And we'd, of course, work with the owners, work with Dan Swan on that. Is he interested in it or not? When he was one of the few people, remember when the first meeting you had in Palomar was here, Dan Swan was one of the few people that showed up because he wanted money for the barn. So he does have some interest in preserving that. So we'd work with the owners of property to see if they're interested in it. We'd identify some, I remember Gary Pearson telling me when he was doing some work, he used to live in that house right next to the Church of David, and they were digging to put some kind of building in. He said, and in this hole there was like one of those old hand rail things that I suppose when railroad closed, they just threw it in a hole and buried it. And he said, yeah, we just put it back in and buried it. So there's, he has collected, he has a whole little museum of artifacts he's found farming that area from David. He sort of has his own little personal museum above his garage. But, there are different sites where we'd work with a consultant. So what would you do if you're going to try to do some archaeological work at, say, Brownville or some of the other sites where there were once communities? So before I even pursue to say, okay, how much would we be asking for? What would be involved? The idea is to try to involve sites around the county and get people interested in the things that they're kind of passionate about. There's some people that approach us that are passionate about Brownville. Maybe this would be something we could get them involved in archaeological work at Brownville. But before we pursue looking more into it and discussing it, I thought I want to run it by you guys to kind of see this is what we're talking about. I could then start pursuing, asking Leah, okay, how much money are you talking? How much of that would, what kind of budget would it require? And then I could bring that back to you guys. You could say,
how
looks
much
good or not.
how much county money would be involved?
If we did like what we did for the planning project, that can all be done with a match through, all can be, like the hours matched on that grant. You should be getting, Lowell sent off like a ream of documentation for that planning grant, so $8,000 and some dollars should come back to the county in reimbursement. So some grants, you can, all your match can be done with in-kind. That would be the CLG grant. That HRDP grant, that's where part of the money has to be actual cash. You can make part of your match with in-kind, but, you know, they require a certain amount of cash. So, you know, it depends on how much money she asked me, I'd look into it and then I'd bring it to you guys.
How much money you think?
I don't really know.
Well, get some
If it
numbers,
was-
get some numbers.
It would be, yeah, it would, I mean, if it was $14,000 to do that, you know, for the survey of the county, but I was able to make up, you know, I'll get some numbers from Leah. She said she'd be willing to work with me, but I thought, well, before I pursue it, I'm gonna see if you guys think this sounds like a good idea. I thought it sounded like an idea that would involve a lot of different parts of the county and, you know, citizens that have, a lot of people participated in that survey when we did it, and driving around the parts of the county that they were interested in. We had Dean Steffen and Philip Black did from the Orchard area, and we had people from the Maroa area that drove around, you know, we were kind of identifying sites. So we could maybe, you know, those would be people that might be interested in working on the things that they're passionate about in their area, and it would, I think that the end goal is you kind of get more sites that would be interesting tourist sites also. You know, you get a little more information about them.
Getting $8,400 back, you're saying?
What?
We're getting $8,400 back?
Whatever you paid out to Leah,
Yeah.
all that's gonna come back.
Well, you know, they do revolving loan type things. If we took that $8,400 and put it in a separate thing, that's what you use for your match if you need it.
Separate account.
Separate account.
Separate
I
line
mean,
item.
it's already gone, it's, you know, we'll be getting it back.
And then I can get some numbers from Leah. I mean, that would be nice, because I think it sounds like a pretty exciting thing, and if we plan it, you know, and not try to rush through it too much, or plan it long enough so we can get the schools involved, if we know this is coming up, and we can get some, I don't know, what, your 4th grade, 6th grade, I'm not sure, and then we could maybe get some in the St. Ansgar community, in the Osage community, in the Riceville community, maybe those school kids, we could work with teachers for a project that's in their community where the kids could sort of be involved in, you know, not just kind of learning some abstract Iowa history, but being involved in some little local history that they're contributing to. So I like the idea that it's kind of more comprehensive. But we focus on, you know, the survey was like anything anybody thought was possibly interesting. And this is kind of narrowing it down to, you know, a few buildings in each community, a few farmsteads or barns, or, you know, some archaeological sites. So.
What, in the end result of all this is going to be,
Well, I think then the next step is like some sites we could maybe get on the National Historic Register. And what you want to do is create some, you know, as we're marketing Mitchell County, we've got, you know, these different things, and the more information you have on your historical things, I mean, people come back, well, like at the museum, people come back whose ancestors were in Brownville. What have you got about Brownville? Or, you know, because even though these were small communities, they're the descendants from the Robbins family looked up Vivian, and that was the man that was shot at David. And, you know, they've looked up Vivian and sent her pictures and visited her. Now, none of them live around here anymore, but, you know, when you have some of this work, and they went and looked at the sign at the church at David, and they were, you know, they're all interested in that. You're kind of creating more, for people that are interested in historical things or genealogical things, you kind of create more things of interest in your county where you've got some information that people want to go check out. I want to go visit that place, or I think, to me, I'm looking at it, that's, you know, not just some more dusty history we're going to stick on a shelf somewhere and nobody reads.
Could I say something? I'm on the board of the Iowa Barn Foundation, and we give grants up to $10,000 to farmers to restore their historic barns. The Rockefeller barn is an example of a barn that we have given. We gave $10,000 to them, and of course that creates local work, and you also save a really good barn. From this idea of finding some barns, we're always looking for barns, but we may be able to find one that would be eligible, and this is all private money that we raise ourselves. And we will be having the statewide meeting at Kurt Meyer's house in September of the Iowa Barn Foundation. We've given away more than $1 million in the last 10 years to restore Iowa barns. Through this work that Penny's suggesting, I bet we're going to find another barn that would be eligible for that kind of a grant, and that's real money coming in here and saving historic
structure. Also, I think it's really interesting that in our statewide survey, our countywide survey, we had teenage kids who volunteered. And I think Leah said in her report she's never seen a county where there were teenage boys who were going around looking for historic sites. So I think, there's some real interest here by young people.
That's good.
Oh, and from
Get
our
them off the couch and get
From
them
from, all the research I did on the David murder, and I copied like $42 worth of newspaper articles from the library, and I turned that over to Kathy Stauffer, and I'm just finishing up her novelette she's written about the murder of David. It's historic fiction, so, sometimes it generates a
Bestseller.
I'm not sure it'll be a bestseller, they go to church a lot in the novel, but, but
Wasn't there a saloon in David?
No, I don't think but they all went to the general store and
Well,
put their
that's
feet
the
around the
same thing in
potbelly
those
stove,
days.
so.
I've seen pictures.
So, I think it's just, it's kind of continuing on the theme of what historical sites of interest do we have in the county, and there are some people that come just for those kind of things. So.
I think it's
Go
a good
ahead
idea.
and pursue and come back with some numbers.
All right, so we'll meet on, and like I said, I'll ask Leah, so how much money are you talking about, and kind of like, she's been through this, like I know this one, the CLG grant's due in August, but if she thinks HRDP might be better, that might be, I'm not sure, I don't have to look up the deadlines on that. And I sort of knew that there's that much money for a match, because I'm thinking this might be a little more expensive than the last one because of that's gonna be kind of intense. We're gonna do a lot more work. The last one was just kind of a survey. This would be actually working up some material, well, kind of like she did with the Union Earth Gallery. We sort of have a preliminary, which I should follow up on. She worked with Red Langrock because he was one of the participants, and we have a kind of a preliminary paperwork done for that to get on the National Historic Register, so we can maybe follow through with that also, with maybe his nephew, his great nephew, whoever's running that gallery. We should kind of continue that. So, I'm kind of excited about things we could do with it. So I'll keep you posted and I'll get more information from Leah about the grant cycles, and I'll do research on my own. But mainly I need to get from her, okay, what do you think this would cost? And then we can start beating the bushes for the money for it. And some grants you can apply for two different things, and one grant can be used as the match for the other grant. Depends on what you're doing. I have to
At what
look
point in
into it.
time does it become brick and mortar? What do you, when you identify these sites, one that pops in my mind is that picture of the Stacy house you have.
Right.
Well, yeah, there it is, but there's trees growing out of the foundation.
Well, Stacyville Mary Blake says they want to move that to their little park and put she thought it would happen last year. Things don't always happen that fast, so.
The Stacy home?
That Stacy home, they'd
Well,
like to
that'd be a
move
good
to a
idea,
corner of
you
the
bet.
park in Stacyville, and actually, because it's got a tin roof on it, I walked around inside, it might look kind of bad, but it's pretty well intact. And I just stuck my camera underneath and took a picture, and you could see these logs that are sitting on with the bark on them. It's like, wow.
Well, that would be great.
So,
then-
Mary Blake is kind of, I'm not sure what the people in Stacyville are doing on that, but that's kind of on the back burner of what they'd like to do is move that to the.
Well, they better
to the
hurry, because
park.
I don't think it's gonna last that much longer.
Well, like I said, it's got that tin roof that's not leaking, and.
No, but originally it probably didn't have a tin roof.
No, it didn't, but that tin roof saved it.
Right, yeah, exactly. But-
That tin roof saved it. The Stacy barn, well, at least I got pictures of it before it became a memory.
those are the type of things that I think if you're gonna do stuff like this, we need to see something that's saved, or you know what
Well,
I mean,
it's-
put together.
It's kind of like Mary was saying though, if we identify a barn through this, then we can work with the barn foundation and the property owner if they are interested.
Yeah, they
Because,
have to be.
they don't, Dan, I think she's talked to Dan Swan, and he lost his interest when he found out that it's only $10,000 and you gotta put some money in it too. So you have to find property owners willing to invest some of their own money in the project also. But that doesn't always happen, but, part of it is then you generate some enthusiasm for the idea, so
Well, maybe you can move that barn into the fairground.
well, the Stacy barn is gone.
No,
The
Hamlin Garland barn.
it needs some work.
Well, I know, I can remember growing up, I had cows and pigs and everything else you could run in and out of it. It was a barn.
But I think they backed a heavy piece of equipment into one of the supports that's, you know, it's gonna need a little work pretty soon. But,
There's been a lot of barns lost.
Yes.
You know, the one on the Walt Run property out there years
Oh,
ago,
yeah.
that was a majestic building that burned down here a few years ago. I saw several properties bulldozed under. Last 5 years I hauled mail and I saw 12 building sites bulldozed under.
I know my mom, we drive around and she tells me who, there's a little tree here in the driveway in a field. She tells me who lived there and who lived here, and there's a barn where the roof is collapsed, and I went to a barn dance in that barn. They built it, you know. But if we can identify some things that aren't gone, and you know, sometimes you can get some enthusiasm from the owner if you get some enthusiasm for the history.
There's one over south of Riceville. It's a big old barn, and I think they still use it for, I can't think of the guy's name either, but I know
They
have
still use
dan-
it for agricultural purposes? Because we
Dances.
like those the best.
Dances.
Oh, dances, well, that's fine.
This was a few years ago. I don't know what it's doing right now, but the home, the place, I mean, I don't think anybody lived there.
Is it in Howard or?
No, I
It's on
was
the
in
Mitchell
Mitchell.
side?
If you go straight north out of,
You know which one?
on,
Addison?
now, what's that? Underwood. You go right up on Underwood, and it's along.
Well, see if we get that project going, you track it down, and that would be one of the ones we could, because they're, you know, you want
This
10 rural
family had
sites.
some money, and I think they were putting it into that barn. I don't think they were, at that time, they were paying.
And then, you know, like, we could, if we could hook up private money also, identify some places people are using that, yeah, well, yeah, we're using a barn, we could use that $10,000, and that,
I'll try to remember that.
yeah,
But yeah, no,
okay.
yeah. No, that was a nice barn. It was pretty decent in shape, and, you know, there's some other agricultural barns there, you know, corn cribs, and, but the house was in kind of tough shape.
When we had the Penny family reunion, you know, and we did a tour of Penny Historic Points of Interest with my mother and some of Stu Penny's kids, who grew up in Stacyville, but, you know, they really paid much attention, and we stopped, and it was their great-grandfather that built where Sharky Penny used to live. He built that house, he built Greg Barker's house, he built the barn there, which is in kind of tough shape, he built the David Church, so we kind of drove around, and, well, this is, you know, part of, you know, intersection of different histories, and then where people used to live, and there's just a couple of trees. But my mom could tell them about where everybody lived, and so.
Probably doing oral history.
Well, thank you.
Meetings attended?
Well, last Thursday, you and I went down to her 25th reunion. Betty was there. A lot of folks were there. It was kind of interesting stories of yesterday.
The history, how it got started,
Yeah,
it was
and-
quite an effort.
I was kind of impressed by a lot of the original members telling us, you know, to keep going with it. I mean, and it has turned out pretty darn well for a lot of the counties. And we've seen that over the last 3 years with our, you know, premium credits and things like that, and to control or manage your risk. And what was the other thing they wanted us to do?
Well, I commend Mitchell County, because I'll tell you, at one time, every 3 years, and is it still 3 years that you renew every 3 years?
No, we renew every year.
Oh, every year. Well, it used to be every third year, and then I know the local insurance agents came in and sat here, and it was from Osage, and I guess they all shared in the profits. And, you know, really tried to bring pressure on the board to, you know, insure with them. And I remember Bill Squire, he was all ready to flee the HERP and give it locally. We're keeping our money in town. Well, you know what? That money was going out of town. And now, you know, with you investing the monies from that group and the banks of the counties, that money is staying in the county, you know. I think it's been a real great thing, but boy, I'll tell you, that first year, we had a claim from Cedar County, had some major claims, and one of them was a snowplow truck backed into a woman, and she was a nurse, I believe, on her way to Iowa City, and we only had 1 million, I think, was the limit on liability, and that claim, she was awarded 3-point-some million, I believe, and the county had to, you know, come up with that out of their pocket. So it was kind of scary at first, but now I see that, you know, what you have for assets, and, I mean, it's great, I think. I think you're probably the envy of a lot of counties.
Well, we hope. I've always asked, I mean, do they actively seek other counties, but I don't know that they do. I mean, when I first was on that board, they were rewriting the bylaws of how one would join and how one would leave, you know.
You know, Joe, some of the counties that did want to join originally, they had a poor risk background, and that was something that, you know, kept us from,
Well, you
we
look at that.
didn't want to accept a county that didn't manage their risks, and you looked at, you know, their experience, and if it wasn't good,
I think we got a good man on board now, Chuck Goodman, comes around and inspects the counties and looks for ways of, you know, operating safely and safer. And so, anyway, that was a nice meeting. And then that evening we had our Prairie Ridge meeting. I don't know, can't say too much about that. I mean, we went through everything, talked about our finances. You know, they're all worried about healthcare, how it's going to turn out. And they were a little bit upset with Ramstead not wanting to take that federal Medicaid, that increase that. That could come back to maybe hurt them over here. But I don't think you're ever going to get away from the folks that need substance abuse treatment.
I think one thing that was mentioned there, Joel, was finding a medical care home, and we have a really good relationship with Mercy, so
Yeah.
we're really in a good position there. Plus that women's program that they have,
XX.
and there's room for 10 now, but they always have a waiting list, and it's people that are third-party payers, a lot of them, and from all over, and we're talking about building a 20-bed, you know,
Well, I think they should, but,
yeah.
but he wants to wait and see how the healthcare
Right.
thing shakes out yet. So, I think it'd be a good use of your dollars, because right now, they're just, you know, what are they getting, 0.75% interest on some of that stuff? And
Not very
some of
much.
it not very much. I mean, you'd be better off putting it into some bricks and mortar, and like Betty said, have 20 beds, you know, and then you reduce your waiting list and, you know, and serve people. I mean, so anyway, that,
Yeah, they say they get referrals from all over the United States, don't they, Joe? Because people see it on the internet, see the facility, and see what a beautiful place it is, and then referrals from other people, you know.
it's a very nice
Yeah.
place. It's, I could go there a couple days, get some rest. Anyway, then
Put in a
after,
grant for it.
the next day, then we traveled on down to Waterloo to juvenile detention. That was a pretty quick meeting. The guy, and we need to place in the minutes that we received the audit for the year. Fiscal year 12, we had total expenses were $955,539.14, and total revenues were $884,039.88, with a loss of $71,499.26, but we're on a cash basis, not accrual, and if we were on the accrual, we would have a profit of $50,793.58. So we really didn't lose any money. You know. So, anyway, that was that meeting. No, that was last week.
Oh, that was nice.
I had it wrote on the wrong day in the calendar. It was below 10, but it should have been above 10. Okay, then after that, then the selection committee met with the FEH architects over here, and I thought that went real well. A lot of good information, and impressive bunch of fellas and gals that went through the gals.
Very, very open-minded to
Everything.
any suggestions from people.
Then after that, then Monday morning at a CSS executive meeting over in Mason City. Our county social services is probably gonna grow and could possibly go to 18 or more counties. Our next meeting is tomorrow in Pocahontas City. Sounds like a foreign country to me.
Humboldt County, or where is that?
Well, that's another one that we could see coming on board, and I think one of our topics is going to be to find a central location that, because we go all the way from Tama County now and all the way out to Pocahontas City. Who's that? Me?
Somebody's got a cell phone going off.
But anyway,
Yep.
so then we went over the bylaws yesterday, and we're changing some of those. We're gonna, we talked about how the chair, everything's gonna be a one-year rotation. You know, if you were elected secretary treasurer, then the next year you'll be vice chair moves to chair moves into the, we don't want it to become where you have the same people operating, or not operating, but making the, you know, the meetings and stuff, so. And if you're somebody that maybe just doesn't want to be the chair of that, you can abstain, or, you know, say you don't want to move it on to the next person. I don't know how we're gonna come up with that. That'll probably be tomorrow's discussion, but, then after that, in the afternoon, yesterday, we met with OPM, architectural firm, and they gave a good presentation, and a lot of good, you know, so at some point in time, we'll probably meet again this week with the rest of the group and decide on, you know, which one we want to talk to and use, so. Those were my meetings.
The only thing I had was our gas meeting last week. But as Brenda said this morning, we really, I think, did accomplish quite a bit, even though it looks like we've learned a lot on how gas works and that, and I think there is going to be opportunities in the future that we still get something done. So, but with the economy, the drought, whatnot, I can understand why.
So absolutely, you know, it's managing your risk. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, you know, you'd be, but no, Stan, I think, and I want to tell you too, I mean, I think you did an awful good job on, you know, all your efforts on that gas line. And like you said, we do know a lot more than we did 6 months ago. You know, before that, we were hiring US Energy to try to get information, and we got hardly anything. It wasn't until you got aboard, we started emailing and phoning, that, you know, a lot of these places were forthcoming with information for us, you know.
You got the groundwork laid now. I mean,
Yeah.
Perfect,
you know,
yeah.
the foundation is laid, and if the economy turns around and there's some more windmills come in, or another factory wants to come in,
You know, I do think the windmills will be coming, it's just a matter of when.
yeah.
So,
And OMU, you know, they voted to go the northern route because it was gonna be cheaper and more gas,
yeah.
you know. So it's kind of a sad deal that we can't go that way. But it is what it is, and
Yep.
we'll move on.
Last Wednesday, I had the meeting with the Mitchell County Board of Health, and we went through all the June and July expenses. The year ended up on a positive note. Revenues were just about 104%, while expenses were right at 95%. So that's very good considering all the cuts and that they've had to take through Medicare and whatever, Medicaid, and different grants that have been reduced. The chart audits came back, they were all positive. They were done for free by Janice Jensen, RN BSN, who's the former Dallas County Director. And it's very good of her to do that for no charge. Several grants were approved that are coming. Emergency preparation grant for $22,000. Public Health Services grant for $42,000. The Elder Bridge grant for $13,100. It does incur a match there of $4,367. going to change long-distance carriers. They're having too much trouble with the phone system they have, or the carrier they have. I'm not sure who it is, but there's when they try to call long distance, there's a lapse between when you speak and when the other person hears you, something like 10 or 20 seconds, and the other people on the other end are going, hello, 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 and then they hang up, so you gotta start over. So they're gonna look into switching to OMU, and they'll be able to keep their same phone numbers. Flu vaccine has been ordered, 1,000 doses have been ordered. Mark Ross came and is working on contracts with septic pumpers, and is also looking to contract the services for the inspection of tanning salons, tattoo parlors, and pool inspections, forming a little company, and just doing it by contract. Yesterday morning,
Can I ask a question? Did they ever
Sure.
talk over on the Board of Health about the whooping cough thing? I mean, you see it in the paper all the time.
yeah, it seems like there's an increase in that. We haven't discussed it there.
Okay, I don't know if that was a problem in Mitchell County. I see Sarah Gordon's always.
Yeah, I haven't heard
cases
anything
all the
here in
time.
Mitchell County yet about whooping cough, but I guess statewide it's on the increase. I can ask Yvonne if she's heard anything. Yesterday morning I had the FMCD categorization governance board meeting. Reviewed the minutes, reviewed the year end. Not all the claims have been submitted yet, so there's a lapse there. Before we get the final numbers. The planning committee, went over the planning committee priorities, recommendations, and talked about renewing certain contracts, community partnerships for protecting children, and disproportionate minority contract. That designate some of our undesignated money to those two projects. We have $33,000 in board discretion funding, so we could allocate that as needed and as we saw fit to do. Reviewed the rules of operation. This is a brochure on community partnerships protecting children. If anybody would like to see it, I'll leave it where you can take a look at that. Let's see what else. Some of the programs that the decategorization services deal with is after-school programs, the Community Partnership Protecting Children, Integrated Mental Health in Charles City, Integrated Mental Health in Chickasaw County, mentoring in Floyd County, mentoring in Chickasaw County. Mitchell County already has mentoring, and parent partners. And the Children at Home program is serving 4 counties. Cerro Gordo County is also included in that. Those are my 2 meetings. I also did attend the HERP 25th anniversary meeting at Tama last Thursday. Item B, manure management plan update.
Okay, we have ProNet Farms in section 16 of Stacyville Township, no changes. Friesen Farms Northeast in section 30 of Burr Oak are using a manure analysis. Just made a few other changes to his plan. Peter Note site number 1 in section 15 of Burr Oak, and Peter Note site number 2 in section 14 of Burr Oak, no changes.
They have 4 of them.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks, Lowell. Anything else for the good of the cause?
Could I ask you, gentlemen, have you heard anything about that they might be ending the subsidies for windmills? Do you know anything about federal government? So how would that affect the turbines, as you see it, Stan? I mean, you've been very involved in.
Well, basically, people aren't going to be putting up very few more windmills unless they absolutely need green electricity.
Right.
And there is an outfit out of Kentucky right now that may need to have green electricity regardless, and so, but basically, it's going to curtail, if not really devastate, the windmills. And I'm sure it's political again, one party trying to use it as a chip for the other, you know, for the.
Well, I understood it was because natural gas is so cheap. That was one of the reasons that they're talking about it. Do you know anything about that?
I just, what I read in the paper is, you know, that one party, like Stan said, is trying to say that they won't support the 30% tax credit, or the others wants to keep it. I myself think it'll stay, but that's just my opinion.
I think they'll probably approve it after the election, regardless of who wins.
Yeah, right,
You know,
that's
it'll
my
be a
opinion. I
feather in
think
their
it'll
hat.
stay. It just,
Natural gas has always been like this,
Mhm.
cyclical. I mean, you know, 3 years down the road, as soon as they can figure out a way to start shipping that overseas, it's going, because there's a lot of countries around the world that are natural gas poor.
you know, they don't have coal.
Right? You know,
Well, Japan's, they're having trouble now since they fudged their nuclear program. You know, they built next to this ocean when they were told not to and advised not to, and they did it anyway, and now it's coming back to now the populace doesn't want any nuclear energy in Japan, so.
What about our energy independence thing? How can they ship out our energy when we want to be energy independent?
Oh, they're exporting coal,
So-
left and right, that's why the coal stocks are going up.
I think it's, yeah, coal, we're exporting coal at probably an alarming rate. More, it's up like 30, 40, 50% every year, more. And we export coal to India and China, you know. Makes you want to breathe easy, doesn't it?